All right, peace. And I want to thank y'all for coming back for another show of universal knowledge. So, tonight we're going to have our special guest coming back for another exciting interview. Going to be Brother Muhammad. We're going to go in tonight with the lessons of the Nation of Islam. That seemed to be a very popular topic. I'm going to go in tonight with what they call the student enrollment. And so the purpose of these lives and the purpose of these videos, the purpose of these using this social platform is to basically bring about a healthy and a positive alternative for our Asiatic people, the so-called black man, African American, and so-called black woman, Asiatic sister and queen, to try to be about a medium to uplift. So I strive to do my best to bring about a positive content and keep the integrity intact. And I plan on, as time goes on, to address a lot of different subjects as well. So, my base is Islam, so that's kind of what I stick with. But I also want to I got a sister that's going to come on and she's going to talk about gardening, learning how to plant and grow your own food, which I think is a part of Honorable Elijah Muhammad's Do for Self program. And I kind of know the hearts and the sentiments of our people, so I know a lot of my Moorish family. They're going to ask me, I do a lot of more teaching and instructing on the Nation of Islam than I do with the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. But trust, I know what I'm doing when it comes to these lives and these unity sessions. And with that, I have a plug, on my website. My website is universalknowledgepublications.com. And on this website, I have many books for a lot of people that if you're interested on any subject, I like to think that you would come by and stop by the bookstore and patronize the business. I do have the Circle 7 Quran, authentic Circle 7 Quran, okay? And not only that, I also have the Prophet's Bath Compound. I actually use this myself. This is good for rheumatoid arthritis, stiff joints, knee pain, and things of that nature. And I also have the Prophet's herbal teas. These are the things that he used, and they actually work for healing. So if you have congestion problems, chest problems, and things of that nature, real harsh coughs, and even if you're dealing with any kind of element, you want to stay quarantine ready, and you just want to stay, just for your health and all general well-being, the Moorish detox cleanser is excellent for you, right? And secondly, I have the Prophet Drew Ali's oil, healing mineral oil here. Okay, so all these things are available on the website. And I also have face masks, and I also have body oils like Egyptian musk, black woman, Gucci, and things of that nature. One of the books that is featured on the website is this book here. It's called The Pathway of Islam. This is one of the newest books. One of the newest books here. Okay, it's an awesome book, just released. It talks about the beginnings of Master Farad in 1930, right? And just some of the few books, but one of the books we're going to be going into tonight. Is it deals with the lessons is the supreme wisdom. And the reason why I wanted to choose this topic is because I think, feel, and believe that our condition can be better. And the only way that our condition can be better is by using the word of Allah or using the word of God. So if I'm going to teach or preach or stand on anything, it has to be on righteousness. But also, too, being about the message that we bring. I always, like I said, strive. I'm not perfect, so I don't stand up here to be pious Pete by any means. But if I'm going to do anything that I feel like my contribution to the Asiatic community, to the Black community, to our people as a whole. Let it be something that I can say I left my universal mark on humanity, which was uplift fallen humanity. So one of the things that just struck me right before, because tonight we got Brother Muhammad, peace to Brother Muhammad Islam, Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
This hit me because, you know, every time we come together, I always want my shows to strive to do better and to strive to have more content. And one of the things that Elijah Muhammad was a master at is that the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, along with Prophet Noble Drew Ali and Brother Marcus Garvey, they were masters at economics. And I thought this was a powerful clip right here. If you all can see this. Say, blood, you trying to go half on some Bitcoins? And it says, let's get it. Cryptocurrency in the future, cuz, you know. And I honestly feel that that's how we need to be thinking. And you see, we trying to get a new mind, trying to go from niggas to gods, right? And as Tupac said, nigga stands for never ignorant, getting goals accomplished. But keeping with the aims of everything, that how we're doing our show, I wanted to play these couple of clips for us. And the one clip I wanted to play was this by Minister John Muhammad. And I hope that you all can get something out of this here.
The last of all of the messengers to be so-called Negro.
We play this clip.
And says the judgment is now. We don't have to wait for it. It is now. Again, he says, knowledge of this day and time. What time have you today to wait for something else? When this is the day and the time that you and I should unite ourselves together with our own selves here in America, so that we can be able to unite ourselves with our black brothers across the pond in Africa.
Powerful. And that's why I wanted to use this clip, because it's time for us to unite. The Crips and the Bloods, all right, coupled with the brothers of the nation, of the 5%, the Moors, okay? We practically cousins, all right? And the Nation of Islam, okay? But my thing
when I
is,
grew up, we treated each other like family when I was growing up. The Moors and the gods and earth and the nation, we was all treated like family with each other.
yes, sir. There's no need for us to trip on the knowledge. But Brother Muhammad, I got one last clip that I wanted to play. Then I want you to go ahead and roll on into it. And we're gonna do that. But while I'm setting up this clip, I want you to talk a little bit about family, Muhammad, and what that means in Islam, and what the teachings do when you come into it. You know, how important is it that we treat each other like family, Brother Muhammad?
Well, it was one principle that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad stressed, and it's a principle of that ultimately, once one embodies that principle and live by that principle, and that principle is to want for one's brother or sister what he wants for his or herself. That's the principle in Islam, and across the different sects or divisions of Islam, from Orthodox to the nation, to the Moorish science, to the nation of the gods and earth, all are different expressions of that flower that we call Islam. which is something that's in our nature. Islam is our nature. It's not a religion. It's a nature, meaning our nature is to submit to the will of God, to submit to the highest and greatest intelligence in self. And the human being, learning that the human being is a social being, and understanding that social beings have more benefit when they live in group format versus living isolated and in their own individual cell, amongst their own individual cells, is more intelligent for us to submit to that intelligence that demands that we unite, demands that we come together. Now, a lot of times nowadays we have a lot of set trip and a lot of division taking place, but that's all in accordance with the plan of the enemy. You know, it's been a plan of the enemy for a long time for the followers of Marcus Garvey, the followers of Prophet Noble Drew Ali, the followers of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and the followers and students of Father Allah, also known as Queen 13 Act, to be divided. But in that division, where it's taken place over the last 40 years, is a greater schism that has ever existed. When Honorable Elijah Muhammad looked at the Garvey, you know, he said Garvey was a fine Muslim. You know, Prophet Noble Drew Ali recognized, you know, that he was presenting a form of mystical Islam to black people in North America. That's where Noble Drew Ali's mind was at. Was really that's why his temple is set up on an order of almost like Sufi schools over in Morocco, over in the East, and even here in America. He has more so. You still here? You back, brother?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so yeah, I was saying that Prophet Noble Drew Ali, you know, was basically presenting a form of mystical Islam, but he had developed on a different level, you know, just for the black man in America. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had the same similar program, but he was taken it to a more common man level in terms of lifting up the average man and woman out the mud of civilization and building an actual nation format in continuity with the hopes and wishes of Marcus Garvey, in continuity with the hope and wishes of an angel Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Father Allah, he was inspired by the same spirit he came in the Nation of Islam, learned from the Nation of Islam, became assistant minister at number 7 in New York, according to what I've learned. And you know, but he felt the need for a greater outreach to the common black man and woman on the street, because all of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had a very strict organization, and you're not going to get a lot of our people with some of the demands and the strictness that was demanded in the Nation of Islam. So therefore, Father Allah, he took his knowledge and wisdom to the black man and woman on the streets, to the common, to the man and woman who was sympathetic to the ideas of our Nation of Islam, who was geared on who wanted to hear the idea that the black man is God, but who may have had a few shortcomings when it came to the restrictive law and other things, that ideas that he had in his mind. He wanted to go after the youth more aggressively than what some was demanding at that, or some was doing at that time. So, Father Allah took his work amongst the youth, amongst the common people in New York, and didn't require some of the restrictive law requirements that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad imposed on members of the Nation of Islam. And so we see that from Garvey, which was also influenced by Muslims, Deuce Muhammad Ali and others, while he was in England, from Garvey to Prophet Noble Drew Ali to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad to Father Allah, we see a continuity of a form of black, of a form of Islam that was being presented to black people. So, in essence, we all are cousins. Like I said, when I grew up, I wasn't even taught, but it was just naturally flowed like brothers in the Nation of God and Earth. Those are my brothers and sisters. brothers and sisters. I was born in the Nation of Islam, but no matter what sect of the Nation of Islam, that's my brother and sister. No matter if you following Farrakhan, no matter if you following Cyrus, no matter if you following studying with one of the ministers in the Council of Elders, or no matter the group, as long as you was from, you're my brother or sister. And Islam, if you're just a black man, period, you're my brother and sister in Islam. So it shouldn't be no sex tripping and things like that. That that's beyond the pale. We're never going to get nowhere thinking in terms of division.
Okay, now I agree with you wholeheartedly. And here recently, I had a meeting, or as they say, I had a bill with some of the brothers who are identify themselves as the 5%, and they laid some things on me that I didn't know or was not made aware of. I was ignorant to, because I was always, my background is Sunni Islam and more science. So I grew up in Islam as well, but I was more so Orthodox first. That was my foundation. So,
Right.
Dealing with that, I always looked at the 5%ers as being the Nation of Islam. But it wasn't here until recently that I heard a few of the brothers from the 5%ers say, well, we're not with that spookism religious paradigm like the Nation of Islam is, and that's the reason why this is what some of them, I don't want to group all the 5%ers all together, but they're saying that that's the reason why I'm a 5%er and I'm not with the Nation of Islam, because I can still, when you were talking about the restrictive laws, I can still smoke weed and I can still drink my beer. And some of the 5%ers, I'm realizing now, they don't call themselves Muslims, but they call themselves God, or they follow the I God culture. Are you familiar with any of that, and can you expound on that?
Yeah. Well, that was when Father Allah, that type of thing has been around since Father Allah started his organization, and so they consider themselves, they're the God, and that's fine, because that's the reality. The reality is that we are Allah. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, every Muslim is Allah, every righteous person is Allah. Every time you look at a black man, you're looking at God. And so, the brothers is correct in their assertion, and but they wanted to make themselves set themselves apart from the Nation of Islam as a group, as an organization, especially during the 1960s. Father Allah, just like Malcolm X, was almost considered a traitor by the Nation of Islam at that period, by some brothers. And then you had during the fall of the Nation of Islam, when the Nation of Islam was undergoing tremendous changes, and in terms of ideology and philosophy, they definitely wanted to demarcate themselves or separate themselves from being associated with the Nation of Islam, which was probably the best thing to do at that time. And but yeah, they don't consider, some of them don't consider themselves Muslim, but any of them studying their lessons understand that a Muslim just means, or one who submits to the will of God. But a lot of brothers and sisters once we learn man is God, we want to worship our own egoism as God, and that isn't really what the Supreme Wisdom lessons wasn't talking about. It was talking about a much deeper reality of God that is present with us, and not just our own egoism, And so, but a lot of brothers, took that idea and ran with it, and they've made, a lot of people have been able to do good and make good in it. So I don't knock them for their assertion, but and I can understand why, as an organization, as a group, why they want to differentiate themselves from being called the Nation of Islam or being associated with Muslim, because at that time, especially in the 70s and 80s, you had a lot of the Orthodox Muslims was very violent towards anybody claiming to be Muslim that wasn't Orthodox. Orthodox Muslims, a lot of the same Orthodox brothers that you went to the masjid with, issued death threats against my father and my family all my life up until around 1988, 89, when my father had started his own group independent of the Nation of Islam. He started a school or institute for higher learning. And so But prior to then, we was issued death threats from Orthodox Muslims, and that was pretty much the case all over the country. So it was so for strategic reasons, for branding reasons, it was necessary for the gods and earth to probably, separate themselves from the Nation of Islam in terms of being called Muslim and the whole idea, terminology of Muslim. And, even looking now today, over the last 40 years, the devil has made the name Muslim a bad name. The misrepresentation of Islam has made Muslim a bad thing. So I can understand why a lot of brothers, a lot of sevens, a lot of gods say that, the Nation of Islam is on something spooky, because when you look at the Nation of Islam, you look at the main group, which is Farrakhan, and Farrakhan's talking about Elijah Muhammad's flying around on the mothership, and that he never died a physical death, even though there was dozens of people to witness that death. And a lot of other ideas that can't be verified in no limited time. And when you're dealing with the Nation of Gods and Earth, they based and grounded in the lessons, which demands that we believe nothing and verify everything. So if it's not the verifiable truth, we're taught to either put it on a shelf or throw it out the window. So it was a lot of things. The Nation of Islam became very religious post Elijah Muhammad. Very religious, which was always the plan of COINTELPRO. And then on the other group of Nation of Islam that you got other people claiming that they're this and that. But then you got those that are diehards, and these brothers mean well and sisters mean well, but they like Elijah Muhammad forever. He's the eternal leader of the Nation of Islam, but that no dead man can lead what's going on today. That's like saying that a dead man is the president of the United States. George Washington is still the leader. That can't be the case. We need a living leader in the time that we're in right now. And so, so the gods probably see some of them as delusional delusional on their foundation, what they're standing on, and they don't want to be a part of it. So I understand that.
Now, I wanted to play this other clip because I wanted to make sure that we did address some of the topics, but I do want to go back because we had discussed prior to the show about how do we take the Negro mind and raise it up to a certain standard and a degree that is Islam is to not change you, but it's to keep the good and erase the bad. It's about refinement. And so with that being said, refinement is, if you are, the thing that made Elijah so powerful is that he was able to take somebody who was on heroin and reform them. And in 6 months to a year, they was civilized. No cigarettes, no drugs. They spoke clean. They were upright, clean shaved, well spoken. Malcolm, Farrakhan, the father, they are the standard. And so for me, when we say Islam or we say Allah, it means a certain standard. It's one thing to say you being cool and acting black, but it's another thing to say you still staying hood and being with the Negroisms, so to speak.
Right.
Like, it's a time where you have to separate the Negroisms and trying to be quote unquote cool and being black, where you understand now it's time for me to, as they say, use my intelligence and think in my higher self. But I wanted to play this clip, and then I wanted to go back to that, Brother Muhammad, if we can. Just 1 second. Let me play this clip if I can. Okay, 1 second.
Okay.
And I want your intake on this after I get done here. One moment. I'm gonna adjust the sound here. I don't know why, but it was as loud as day before. Then I get it on here and I can't get no sound. And I don't know why.
He is, then Elijah Muhammad can't be who we say he is. Then we are not who we think we are, and we can take that which Master Farad Muhammad taught and throw it all away. Throw the teaching of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad away, like some of you did. Oh, pardon me, like some of us did. but I know the effect of what happened to me.
So Farrakhan goes into who the original man. I'm not going to play everything, but I just want to play just a little bit of it. And then I want to go into the student enrollment, because a lot of people had a lot of questions about the student enrollment.
Who is the original man? Are you black because you got cursed? Or are you black because you took your color out of the darkness, out of which the first life came? Since we agree that environment influences heredity, if the real darkness before there was sunlight had matter in it that was real, how then could the God make himself up in darkness and come out white? Talk to me.
Okay, so that was that. And I'm going to go into the student enrollment, and I'm going to just touch on that. But a lot of it is, I wanted to get a handle on it, man, because I love the teachings of the student enrollment. It's 10 lessons, and you can get all this in the book, and these books are available on the website, universalknowledgepublications.com. And on page number 9, this is the student enrollment rules of Islam. It says the following questions must be answered 100% before the student, before the submittance of the student for lesson number 1. So this is what it looks like, just to kind of get y'all engaged into what we're getting into tonight. So I'm gonna go through the 1 through 10, Muhammad, and then I'd like for you to respond on them, Justin Bree. Question number 1: who is the original man? Question number 2: who is the colored man? Question number 3: what is the population of the original nation in the wilderness of North America and all over the planet Earth? What is the population of the colored people in the wilderness of North America all over the planet Earth? What is the area in square miles of the planet Earth? How much is the land? How much is the water? What are the exact square miles of useful land that is used every day by the total population of the planet Earth? How much of the useful land is used by the original man? How much of the useful land is used by the colored man? What is the birth record of the said Nation of Islam? What is the birth record of the said others of said others than Islam? Okay. So, of course, Brother Muhammad, I know you were raised in the nation, but I asked you these questions for the benefit of the audience, just to try to keep things moving.
Okay.
The original man is the Asiatic black man, the maker, the owner, cream of the planet Earth. Some say father of civilization and God of the universe. This has God of the universe. What was interesting to me when I first got a hold of this, Brother Muhammad, I'd like for you to expound on this, because one of the ministers in Orthodox Islam told me that we can't be Asiatic because we're not from Asia. So you got to be a Chinese person or a Korean person or a Japanese person or Indian, like from Pakistan or Uzbekistan somewhere, to be an Asiatic. Can you get something on that?
Well, Asia and Africa has always been one land mass, really.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Asia, the Supreme Minister John Muhammad said it like this. He said, in order to divide Asia from Africa, the white man made the Suez Canal. as a way to divide, as a dividing line for Asia and Africa. But when you study African history, you will find that the same Cushites that was in East Africa was the same Cushites that was in Arabia prior to the sand, before it was covered in sand, and after. When modern scientists, anthropologists use satellite imaging data, they have uncovered tombs and monuments in similar to the tombs and monuments that are found in Nubia and other places in East Africa along the Nile River. The people 42,500 years ago, there was a civilization at the southwestern coast of Arabia Peninsula called Saba, and Saba was also not only in Arabia on the Arabian Peninsula, but Saba and its people and civilization also was a part of areas of the Horn of Africa. And some ancient historians call that region or that part of the world Puntland, P-U-N-T, Puntland. And these were the same blacks that fathered civilization that were later known to be Ethiopians and Cushites and Nubians and Egyptians, but these were the same black people. You will find, if you study the history of the Bedouin tribes and other tribes of East Africa and Arabia, you'll find migratory patterns in kinship that is celebrated and acknowledged from the area of Arabia of the Levant, which is Iraq, Syria, areas like that, from the Levant all the way to North Africa, over to Morocco, all the way throughout the Sahara Desert, through areas of East Africa. You will find tribes that understand that there's a kinship, an ancient kinship between them, and they've always traded and did business with one another. So when you go even to southern India, it was one European scholar that lived about 200 years ago by the name of Sir Godfrey Higgins. He called, and a host of other European historians at that time, they called India the second Ethiopia, that there were two Ethiopias, one in Africa and one, or what is called Africa, and one in India. And if you go there in southern India, in Tamil land, in Sri Lanka, and other places, you will see black people that look similar to the same black people that exist in southern Arabia, that exist in Somalia, and other parts in Ethiopia and other parts of Africa. You will see a very similar to the hair texture, to the shape of their nose, their lips, and even some ancient cultural ideas and expressions, very much in common with one another. So, despite what the Europeans said, we have to define the reality according to what we know, what can be historically verified. And what is historically verified is the same black people that lived in that part of the world in ancient times is kin to the same black people that ultimately that lived in East Africa, whose descendants ultimately migrated and moved into West Africa and Central Africa and Southern Africa starting around 50,000 years ago, according to the history for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And there's geological evidence to show that around 50,000 years ago, Arabia was a lush, very beautiful land, and then geographical changes occurred, and it became more desert, and what happened to the people there? The people migrated. People migrated north, people migrated northwest, people migrated west into deeper parts of Africa, into West Africa, starting around 50,000 years ago. And so the brother just did a scholarship. He hadn't did a scholarship, and that's what happened with many brothers that was in the Nation of Islam at the time of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's death. Warth D. Muhammad was just more astute, more studious than most of these brothers. And they believed in Islam, but they didn't know they didn't ever verify the lessons. They wasn't grounded in the lessons, because the lessons If you see it starts off, who is the original man? Well, that's a question. That's something for you to go out and study. Don't believe what Elijah Muhammad answered. Before Elijah Muhammad gave his answer, that question was around, who is the original man? In fact, Master Muhammad was teaching the people who the original man was. You know, but because they didn't have Google at that time. They didn't have access to, most people didn't have access to grand libraries. In fact, most of our people couldn't even read at the time of Master Muhammad's coming here. They had to have a reading class at Allah's Temple of Islam in order to build our people up so that they can have the brains to ultimately one day go out and investigate and research what the master was teaching. You know, so if the brother, the Imam, had did his research, he would have found out that, the same people in Asia was the same people in Africa. That originally this land, if we go back to the world map of Pangaea, originally this land was one land map. If we go back before the Suez Canal, there wasn't nothing separating Africa from what is called the Arabian Peninsula. If you look, or Israel, if you look at the Red Sea, at one time the Red Sea was a river. You know what I'm saying? If we look at geology, so if you know anything about geology, you would understand, you know, where Master Muhammad was coming from. And then, you know, I'll leave the comment with this. If you know a little bit about the Hebrew language, the word Asia or Asha means world of matter. And so Asia means world of matter in Hebrew. You know, and so according to people that speak that language, I don't speak Hebrew, but according to the scholars of the Hebrew language, you know, Asia, which is, or Aisha, is, you know, it means world of matter, means the land. And so, you know, and we know the Hebrew is an original language that was developed along the Nile River. It's one of the Nile Valley language families.
Okay. Now, what I always thought was, that's okay, brother. Excuse me for cutting you off. The question number 2, or answer number 2, it says the colored man is the Caucasian white man, or Yaqub's grafted devil, the skunk of the planet Earth. What I thought was funny is that Elijah and Master Farad flipped it, because, you know, back in those days they called us the colored man. So now we learn from the Supreme Wisdom lesson, student enrollment, the colored man is the Caucasian man, the white man, Yaqub's grafted devil. Can you explain why the Caucasian is called colored?
Well, I wish I could remember something that my brother Elijah wrote when he was a little kid. I probably got it somewhere stored in my archive. But, you know, when a black man, when you look at a black man, he's gonna, most of us, unless you're a little yellow like me, you're gonna stay the same complexion. If you get mad, if you get angry, you know, the white man is the colored man, because, you know, he's the man who changes colors when he gets mad. They turn, you know, he's the man who changes colors when he gets sick. He gets sick, he goes pale. You know, he gets, or get cold outside, he gets paler. He gets upset, he turns red, he turns pink. You know, when he dies, he turns blue. You know, whereas the black man, you know, but my brother elaborated very, very, very slick, like, and he went through different color arrangements. But so here's the man of color. You know, our color, black, is permanent, and, you know, we only get richer in our blackness, if anything else. But our color don't change with our mood. And so if any man that's colored, it's this colored man. The white man is the colored man, and, you know, and that was Master Farad Muhammad as a god, as a master, as the god at the time, as a master psychologist as well. You know, he had understood that the white man had turned our world upside down. So what he did was turn everything right side up. And so he put, you know, the devil had our thinking topsy-turvy, like he has in most of our thinking today. So Master Farad Muhammad and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was working on changing the orientation of our thinking. And so in thinking of ourselves as less than, that we're the colored man, it's the white man's the colored man. And then the Master Muhammad taught us where these white people come from. That these white people came out of you, black man. That there was a genetic selective process that was around 6,600 years ago that ultimately produced the white man from out of the black man. So Master Muhammad, you know, gave us that knowledge, gave us that wisdom, which even the scientists of the devil today are now coming to the conclusion that somehow the white pale skin developed around 6,000 years ago in Western Europe as a process of some type of selective breeding type process. That's the only thing that explains where Europeans come from. Vitamin D theory doesn't work. And so the skunk of the planet Earth means just that they're the foulest, most, I mean, nobody wants to be around a skunk, so that, that changes our orientation in our mind. If the white man's the skunk of the planet Earth, then the brother or sister accepting, learning their lessons, learning student enrollment, they understand that who wants to be around a skunk? How many people got skunks for pets? There's a few people nowadays that got skunks for pets, and they try to take out that fact where it admits that it's defense mechanism, that foul odor. But who wants to naturally be around the skunk? Nobody. So therefore, Master Muhammad was, and by calling him, grafted devil, and he was using the words that was around us that we had been educated in, and he was turning them upside down and reorientated us towards our own blackness, towards our own divinity, and giving us a sense of self-pride, and, while at the same time teaching us the truth. Devil means one grafted from the original, made weak and wicked. When you study the history of a people, you study the nature of a people. If you look at the history of white people, which we are fortunate that they taught us their history all throughout our school years, all we hear about in their history for the most part is warring, fighting, wickedness, and bloodshed. That's what they taught us. When I was in school, I used to teach those white people that they was devils, and I say, look at your history. And they be like, yeah, we did make war. We did spread wickedness. We are, by nature, a wicked people. Now, the individual might do something to try to change that, but as far as the collective, this is their foundation. This is what they're starting off with. So, that was a beautiful part of the lesson where he was separating us psychologically from looking up to white people and us, and the desire for us to be around white people, like so many black people and black leaders wish for, even into this day and time. Even the ones that claim they're pro-black, they just love, getting recognition by some white institution like the United Nations or something of the such like that. But, Elijah Muhammad, Marcus Garvey, and Noble Drew Ali, they were totally independent in their way of thinking about these things.
Now, can you explain Yaqub and who was Yaqub and why did he want to make a devil? Like, why wouldn't Yaqub just make another god? Why make another? Why have an assignment to make a devil?
Well, Yaqub was born in the circle of the gods. His uncle was a scientist, and so he was already privy to an order of consciousness or order of information that the average person wasn't. But when Yaqub was 6 years old, while playing with two pieces of steel, he learned that one had magnetic in it and the other did not. And while playing with these two pieces of steel, he realized the universal law that most people had not really recognized. And that was that unlike attract. That was new. We know about the law of attraction and how like attracts like. You have positive thoughts, you'll attract more positive thoughts to you. You exude positive energy, you'll exude a lot of positive energy back to you. We understand that. That's the basic law of attraction. But Yaqub discovered the law of magnetism and discovered that unlike attract. And if unlike attract, and unlike attract and like can repel under certain conditions. And so Yaqub, by playing with these two pieces of steel when he was 6 years old, according to the story Master Farad Muhammad gave us, he told his uncle, he said, Uncle, when I grow up, I'm going to make a man. And his uncle was like, what are you going to make a man except that which causes wickedness and bloodshed? And he said, Uncle, surely I know what you know not. Because Yaqub was looking into, he had just by playing with those two pieces of steel, that took his consciousness to a whole nother level where he was able to look into the nature of the black man and saw that there was two men in the black man, and that within this nature of the black man, that there was a current of wickedness that had to be brought out. The current of wickedness that had to be brought up. The black man had to discover what was deep hidden in the dark recesses in a potential state within his nature. So Yakub brought that potentiality out, and it came out as a blonde-haired, blue and green-eyed white man. And it took him 600 years to make that white man.
Okay, now
And
Muhammad, I gotta ask you this question. This is how my mind works. It says that we were created by Allah. So Allah created us, and Allah creates everything perfect. And there's a Bible verse that says, "Be ye perfect as God is." So is this whole concept of man having two men in him, is that symbolic of talking about the ego and saying how the ego can sometimes overtake you, and it was depicted as a so-called white man with blonde hair and blue eyes? Because if Allah makes everything perfect, how do you get the devil in you? Because the devil would mean something that's in you that's unperfect.
well, look at the word. Allah makes everything perfect. That's a present tense word. You're using that in the present tense of that word, make. That means that it's happening now. Perfection is something that is a continuous process. If Allah made everything perfect, that's one thing. But makes everything perfect, is that what you said? Allah makes everything perfect? So if Allah makes everything perfect, that means it might not be in a state of perfection. But one of the names of Allah is Al-Rab. Al-Rab. According to the Mulana Muhammad Ali translation of the Holy Quran, Al-Rab means the one who nourishes a thing unto perfection.
Okay, now I want to talk about this perfection and unperfection, because I know we got a lot of viewers, and I know some people might say that I try to be self-righteous or I try to be overly judgmental, but I always want to keep going back to this because most of our people in our culture, so-called black culture, and I always say so-called because under the teachings of the Honorable Prophet Noble Drew Ali, he said that we are Moabites and Moorish Americans. So for me, from a legal standpoint, I know what it means from an astrophysicist standpoint. I don't like to use the word black when it comes to the court of law. I like to use the word Moor because it gives us a legal status at law. But I understand the word black when it comes to our people, and we just talking in jargon. But nonetheless, this whole concept of us in the drug culture, the pills have become real, the fentanyl, the Percocets, things of that nature, us popping pills now and dealing with marijuana. And a lot of people say that, that's the only thing that really soothes me or eases my pain or things of that nature, so I have to do this. But Islam teaches that we're not allowed to have any vices. So a lot of people might like the teachings, but they say, I don't want to deal with nothing religious, but I like some of the things that Islam teaches. So how can we get our people to understand that Islam is still for you, even though you might be a junkie or a weed head or something like that?
Well, we have to stop teaching religious Islam and start teaching natural Islam.
Okay. What's the difference between religious Islam and natural Islam?
Well, any religion is an organized set of laws and bylaws that someone has created for other people to follow. Whereas natural Islam is something that flows from the heart as one gets more in tune with his or her own nature. I remember when I used to be a, quote-unquote self-righteous Muslim running around here, and my father was like, I want you to, this was when I was like 14, 15, he was like, I want you to teach a natural Islam. I want you to discover natural Islam. And I couldn't understand what he meant by it. It took me about 30 years, about 25 years almost to understand what he meant by it. But, and now I understand what he means by it. I understand, we don't allow them vices of Islam, but vices can be psychological as well as physical. Let's take, for example, some of the most evil people on the planet Earth don't drink, don't smoke, don't do anything like that. They don't steal. But does that make them righteous? No. Some of the most evil, some of the most wicked people that push buttons and bomb families, bomb children, kill, destroy governments on the planet Earth. They don't drink. They don't smoke. They don't have cigarettes. They don't smoke no marijuana. In fact, they got laws. They produce the evilest nation on earth has condemned all those things, right? It's illegal in America to pop a pill. It's illegal in America to smoke in most states especially 10 years, 20 years ago, to smoke a blunt. Brothers go 2 years, 3 years in prison for a small bag of marijuana for a plant, which is absurd. So the same enemy, the same devil. If the devil doesn't have that vice, does that make him a Muslim? Does that make him right? You understand? So righteousness and
Yo, hold
not
on,
having
man. You gotta
has to
back that
mean
up. You
something
said the
more than that.
hold on, man. Back that up. You said the devil don't have that vice, huh?
That most of the devils in power don't have those vices. They will not drink. They will not smoke. Most of them live. I done been around rich white people. I done been around rich white people when I was a realtor in the real estate industry, and in conversations with people, white people, and different things that I've been a part of. And most of them eat better than most average black people that even is prescribed to the religion of Islam. Most of them don't eat no pork. Most of them don't even eat beef. And this was 15, 20 years ago. Most of them don't most of them don't smoke. Most of them don't. They definitely don't do no drugs. They definitely don't do that. But that doesn't make them righteous. That doesn't make them right. That just means that they're not addicted to that condition. But that doesn't. So righteousness must be something different than that. That's what I'm looking at.
Okay.
I'm looking at a brother that may be considered, remember the lesson say all matters is judged by intention. What is the intention? So like, for example, let's say I knew a brother, he was he wasn't notorious, but he was a very high level street brother. He probably moved about 50 kilos in the city of Indianapolis per week. But selling dope to his people, selling death to his people. But what was his intention? His intention was to take care of his mama, take care of his sister, and he made sure that he helped other people get just as rich as him. His intent was to make everybody that he knew into a millionaire. And he honestly would give you anything that you needed so that you could become a millionaire. He was a known brother by the name of Anthony Sprague. Good brother, solid brother, very conscious now as well while he's in prison. And so him and his buddies. And so all matters is judged by intention. Do I condemn him for selling poison to his people? Well, let's look at it. Pfizer, the pharmaceutical company, sells and peddles poison throughout the world, right? They're the ones that sell the Percocet. They're the ones, certain pharmaceutical companies were the ones that flooded America 20 years ago with Oxycontin. Other poisonous synthetic opium, and actually opium-derived medicine, some of them as well. They're not looked at they're held in their churches and in their synagogues as good Christians and righteous people and good Americans. They get a pat on the back from America. So we have to look at the question of what righteousness is from a more broader perspective in order to understand the mentality and in order to deal with and gather our people today. Not saying that we can allow ourselves to be a slave to anything. You know what I'm saying? We can allow ourselves to be a slave to anything physical, nor mental, physical nor mental. But a lot of times we're more slaves. Our biggest vice is our way of thinking and our emotions more so than our physical things.
So would you say the way to get out of those vices is studying the word of Allah? Studying that word of Allah will help us get rid of those vices? And carrying into practice, let me put it that way. Putting into practice the righteousness, of not drinking, not smoking, not eating pork.
But is that righteousness? Is the question. There's white people that don't do that are killing people right now. They're pressing the button right now. They're selling. In fact, more notorious than any black drug dealer in the history of the maker is the people that own Domino Sugar Company. They're peddling poison to our people.
Mm-hmm.
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad condemned sugar. But at the same time, he had several bakeries throughout the city of Chicago. Was that unrighteous?
Well, I asked that question because we say we sticking with the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad for a purpose and a reason.
Yeah, that's our foundation. That's our foundation for us to build on. But we can't get stuck there. See, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said it like this. One time it was a brother, I think he was out of Missouri, I want to say St. Louis. He was the minister there. And the people that joined the temple, and the people, he had a nice little thing going. And then he started getting more strict on the law. And slowly but surely, he had to kick out everybody out of the temple except his family and the captain's family. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was like, well, brother, how you going to pay the bill if you ain't got no people? What happened to all those people that was just there? Well, messenger, dear holy apostle, they wasn't following the restricted law. And so the messenger was like, brother, you got to use wisdom. You got to be practical. You got to use practical wisdom first, and then you got to use divine wisdom second, or supreme wisdom second. And so practical wisdom is you work with them and build them up so that they can get rid of these hindrances or vices, okay? You build them up. You can't just throw them all away because they not practicing 100% to the letter of restricted law. They come they come from years and years of being conditioned and even nowadays socially engineered into these vices. So it's a process that you have to take people through. That's why when you join the Nation of Islam, the first thing is called processing. And when you're processing, that's when you declare and ask for your holy name. You write your Savior's letter. And then after you get your Savior's letter, then you get the answer student back in the 70s. You used to get answer the student enrollment number 1, question number 1. You know, you get the question and the answer. And so, you know, they built people up through a process. And so it's a process that must take place. And, you know, and like I said, just because a person don't smoke marijuana or don't smoke cigarettes or don't drink, that doesn't mean that he's righteous. I know a lot of wicked people that do all these things. That don't smoke, don't drink, they eat better, they eat one meal probably every 3 days. But that don't mean that he ain't still a no good, dirty bastard.
Okay.
Righteousness comes from the word, I'm going to leave off with this. Righteousness comes from the word ritwis. The Old English word ritwis means the practice of wisdom. That's where righteousness comes from. And so righteousness is our nature. And the more we learn how to get in tune with our nature, that's when righteousness will flow. And we'll live in the spirit of Allah. Other than that, you know, even if we can follow the law 100%, that doesn't mean you're righteous. We saw a bunch of righteous people in 1975 sell the Honorable Elijah Muhammad out. Yet they call themselves and consider themselves still righteous. I beg to differ.
Okay, now this last one, because I want to leave this one for the next topic, because we didn't really get a chance to go through all the student enrollment, but it's something to grab on. You talked about wanting to set up an organization or a government that is not religious, but I wanted you to expound on that. You said it would be practical, but not religious?
Yeah. Well, we got plenty of religious leaders, and we can let them people still continuously lead and people follow their religions. But you will never unite black people around one religious ideology. That's the Master Muhammad gave us the solution to that in that story of the God 66 trillion years ago. He wanted everybody to speak the same language. And since he could not get the people to speak the same language, so therefore he wanted to set dynamite in the earth and kill all the original people. And that's how a lot of Muslims think. You don't accept Elijah Muhammad, you don't accept Islam, and follow to the letter, then blow up these niggas. Get rid of these niggas. I done heard ministers basically say that in my years in Islam. Oh, you're going to go down with the devil. They condemn our people to hell. When many of them are just born out of their mama's womb and ain't even had a thought. Nobody even gave them a thought. Father Allah ain't here teaching the babies. Who's teaching the babies? But yet people want to condemn our people. That ain't the love. That ain't wanting. That ain't Islam. That ain't righteousness. That ain't wanting for your brother and sister what you want for yourself. If you want for your brother and sister what you want for yourself, then you will understand their condition and build them up from there. So we can't be like, in dealing with where we at in the critical moment of black history, in this critical moment, we cannot be like the